Welcome to the Big Roofs Podcast. We're going to sit down today with one of the most influential leaders in the roofing industry. I'm John DeLaurier, former roofing company owner and co-founder of ProLine. Today, we're joined by somebody that many of you already know, Ryan Groth, founder of Sales Transformation Group, a company that's actually reshaping how contractors build predictable revenue through real sales leadership, accountability, and systems that actually work. Ryan will break down exactly how STG helps contractors move from chaos to clarity, from owners wearing every hat like I used to do and chasing jobs to build real sales systems with structures, KPIs, culture, and a process that you can finally delegate. Then we'll go deeper. We'll talk about fatherhood, priorities, finding success, and how building a business the right way can give you the freedom to show up for the people that actually matter. It's one of the most real and meaningful conversations that we've had on this podcast. Let's get into it. All right, everybody. Welcome. Today we have Ryan Groth. I've known about Ryan for a long time. We've met several times. Ryan, introduce yourself to everybody in the space, because I think a lot of people know who you are, but I would love an update because like I said before we hit record, is that I've known about who you are and what you do, but I think it's a good time for an update to make sure we're all on the same page about what SDG is, all those things.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me on, John. It's good to be with you, and excited to see your success with ProLine, and congrats on that, taking it from zero to it's out in the space, people using it. I'm hearing people using ProLine a lot. So congrats on that.
Yeah, man. Thanks.
Yeah. So STG, Sales Transformation Group, we're a sales training and coaching group. So there are a few guys out there, people who are the founders of it are usually associate a person with the company. That would be me for STG. And, we serve contractors and helping them build their businesses through sales training and coaching. I think that it's important that whoever you are as a contractor, you need to align yourself with some buddy or some sort of strongly backed philosophy of how you sell, like, and why, and what's the reason. So we're one of those groups that has a belief system, has a training program. I think that the most recent iteration at STG in the last couple of years is we're less like, hey, Ryan's a consultant or Ryan has a bunch of training videos. There's people out there that have that. We have that. I enjoy consulting. I enjoy leading, giving insights into owners and their teams. I love all that. But our bread and butter is like coaching and fractional sales management now at this point. So if you're an owner, we have like two types of clients. Type number one is like I have an owner with like my brother selling and my sister's brother selling, or my husband or her husband, and it's like this family affair, and they're out there closing deals, and it's, they all trust the brand, they're going for it. But they don't have any sales system, no sales process, like no goals. The structure of the sales org is like very elementary, and they just need more help. We help take them from like there to structured, planned, systematized, infuse some tech in there, create a culture of selling, and then provide an opportunity for like new talent that they can therefore attract and bring into their business to attract some really cool people, some high performing people, some people that want to win and find a career there in your contracting business and sales, which I think is super cool. And then we have like this next level, this other type of client. They may have a bit of a sales team. They have people who aren't in the family that are in sales. They've been doing this for a while, but they don't have accountability, or they don't coach at all. It's very reactive, and they're at like a place where they're stuck, and they need some infused energy. They need some STG to come in and like spin things up, to create some excitement, to to remove some distractions and some challenges, some maybe some limited self-limiting beliefs in the organization that's caused them to be stuck. And we can come in and identify what those are, and then start to transform them from maybe like order takers or lead babies to more proactive sellers that are doing things with a ton of professionalism, intention, authenticity. And we will coach them on a regular basis where we feel a bit of a part of their organization. So I think there's like one other company that does this They've been around a long time. No need to name the name of the company, but I think there may be just one other that has like a very like higher ticket, more involved relationship, more in person on site than with as a coach with the client. We do that at STG, um, and we have a very strong deployed coaching group that goes on site and works in the office, works in classroom training, goes and does ride-alongs, works with owners and leaders to shape a culture of predictable revenue.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's making me think about just our what I see in contracting is like there are two different groups right now is the way it looks right now, and now I don't like to tie it to revenue, but like that's a general idea of it's usually the startups to 5 million is where we're seeing our groups of people, at least at ProLine, and then the $5 to $40 million companies, and there's
Yeah.
different levels as you get
Mhm.
there. But I would imagine there's different types of approaching those two different groups. At least I don't know about revenue if you look at revenue, but that makes sense from what I see because I actually do personally reach out to a lot of our customers after they've been through our sales process and onboarding and all that. I want to make sure that they're utilizing all the systems well, and
Mhm.
we're making sure that we're maximizing what we can do for them as a platform.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of like, there's definitely sales part of it, but then understanding like you have to input data to get the right data out and the right reporting
Yes.
out. It's a huge
Yes.
thing, and having having all kinds of competitions in your sales organization
Yeah.
is great, but you have to make sure you use the platform. So,
Mhm.
from the first group of people that you talked about, what are a couple different 2 or 3 different things challenges that you see consistently as you enter into that relationship? What are some, like, just initial things you see all the time? Because we have a lot of, like, very similar things that we see all the time with that group.
Yeah. Um, I think the one thing is the owner is wearing a lot of hats, right? Like they need a neck brace. They have so many hats. And I think that sometimes they don't see the forest from the trees. You may run across some big visionary leaders, right? We see them, but most of them are like, dude, I'm just trying to like keep my head up. I'm chasing jobs and chasing money. And what we got to do is like get them to not exert energy into the business and like stop for a second and try to get them to zoom out and think about things a little bit differently, cast a little vision, think about where they want to be. So I think slowing down and creating a plan. We don't get into P&L and planning, and uh, we don't touch that. There's like other groups that are way better than that about that than we are. We're more like, all right, let's create a sales plan. How do we go from this to this to this? And let's reverse engineer that, and let's put some structure into your CRM that has visibility against those goals. There's KPIs that we can see in the CRM. That's a key thing that we care about. We usually get access to all of our clients' CRM so that we can see it and use the tools and help them provide that structure. And then I'd say that the other two parts are they don't really have a really solid. Nobody loves their compensation plan. Some people have it dialed, some people don't. So we work on that. And then they don't have a sales process, but once they learn a sales process, like when you have one that you can say, yep, this is our sales process, you need to know it, you need to understand it, you need to be able to teach it, and you need to demonstrate it. And you not just know the sales process, but you know why we do the sales process. There's a reason, there's why it's in there and you believe it's important. Man, that kind of alignment in your sales team, it creates a lot of real authenticity and confidence out in the marketplace. People feel that they love the representation of your brand. They feel cared for, thought of. It's great. Um, and man, that'll help you start to delegate selling because at the end of the day, what we're talking about and building a sales team is the owner who needs to sell is delegating selling. So an owner, if he doesn't sell his own job, but he does 50 million a year, do you think he says I did 50 million a year? Yeah, he did. He said I did 50 million a year because he's delegating selling. So what we're doing is just creating a way for the organization to attract and then produce salespeople. I think what's happening now in the world of residential roofing is that there's more and more and more of a desire to be a retail business and I think what people are realizing is like I used to be able to sell $1,000 deductible, and now I need to sell $25,000, roofing system. a lot of people are selling out of their own wallets, and they have a lot of limited beliefs that are holding them back. Well, the good news is it's systematic. If you teach the system and how to sell, and it's a good system that is supporting the right salesmanship competencies required to sell a $25,000 roof system at a 40% clip or more, then you could teach that system. So we just kind of identify. I'm answering your question very long in a long way.
I love it.
We like that. Those are some of the big desires, and how we do it is I could talk about that separately. But most companies are like, man, I got to zoom out where I want to be, create some structure, make it visible, use it, create some accountability and transparency, and then train so that I could like definitely delegate sales in a way that I know ultimately will be better than if the owner would do it himself or herself. Some people know they don't want to touch sales. Some people are like, oh, but nobody could sell like me, right? So both can keep you stuck if you don't do something about it. So yeah, those are some of the basic things in the beginning, and teaching that sales process is important, because now you have a weapon to wield. Like if you don't have the tool, you don't have the weapon, you can't go to battle. You're just at the mercy of your surroundings. But if you have a system you believe in, and you're confident and you have conviction in the system, man, it'll help you stay in control of every sale and then create revenue that's predictable. And then you can train other people, and then they have predictability in their pipeline, and it changes the game, So
Yeah.
Here's how roofers make it home for dinner every single night without losing a single sale, even when they're one-man shows. Automate your communication with ProLine, the only communication-first CRM for roofers. Because when you fix your communication, you'll sell more jobs. Your weekends will smell more like sunscreen and backyard barbecues than that crappy gas station coffee. And all you got to do is ask these roofers.
Where we had about 200% growth, and I attribute that to incorporating ProLine.
But just with one automation, I was able to get 25 Google reviews.
It's been absolutely insane how quickly we were able to grow.
Now, ProLine's not going to win the beauty pageant, but it will save your Saturday. Now, back to the show.
You're making me think about different KPIs where I would think a lot of people that I've done a little bit of coaching and some masterminds and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But the biggest KPIs that I've seen, when people are trying to grow or they don't believe they can grow or whatever the stop is, I'm not a numbers guy. I'm not I was never a great student in school. But I realized that understanding your numbers is kind of the foundation for what we did at our company to make sure we had that transparency. Because I wanted my sales reps to understand why we sold at a certain price point, why we had certain profit margins, because I obviously want them to succeed and win and whatever their personal goals are from commission. But if you don't have transparency, and as an owner, you don't know the numbers, you can't sell, hey, I want you to sell at this price point. Because a lot of people sell per square. We never did that. We sold at profit margin. So the biggest KPIs that I saw, and I'm kind of wondering if you see this too, is close rate, an accurate close rate. If you put out 10 proposals, you sat at 10 kitchen tables, whatever that was, how many did you sell on average over time? And then the ranges of people understanding that is wide. So really having clear focus on that. I wonder if you see that a lot. The second one was our average ticket, what's the average contract size? And then the profit margin on that. Are you hitting the numbers you know you need to hit to hit goals as a company and goals as we worked in quarters because it's an easier piece to bite off of. If you're talking about 2025, you're like, I don't know. And it's not as exciting because there's not as a short of time span. So understanding actual close rate, understanding profit margin on every job, and understanding the actual average ticket size. And so I know I need to sell this many of this contract. I need to see this many people at this close rate. And this will produce the X amount of profit for the business, and I will receive this amount of commission. Do you see that kind of, I saw that so many times. Are you seeing that with these smaller companies or maybe even the bigger companies? Are you seeing those kind of things with KPIs?
Yeah, those are really great examples of, so you have like reports and then you have like KPIs. So I think that looking at reports is like, cool, what data can I extract and insights can I get from this longer period of time, whether it's seasonality or trends or when that storm hit, or you want to know the numbers and like zoom out, especially when you got a couple years under your belt. You're like, why did this happen? Oh, this didn't happen in spite of is this because we're good at sales or in spite of the fact that we didn't even sell well? We just had an order taking moment for 30 days. And so like, you want to know reports. So I think that's number one. That's why I think CRMs have to have like good reports, and it shouldn't just be, again, you want to draw conclusions about what's in there. But KPIs I like quarters as well. But they're leading. So you have like leading indicators that if you, I was hanging out with Dan Martell on his group calls for like 2 months. I spent a little money and got some coaching. And then I literally like said his system in my group coaching and recorded it and then put it in my learning management system of me teaching the same thing I learned from him. Cause I was like, this is really good. And this whole phraseology of like, okay, what would make the goals, like hitting our goals, what would make that inevitable? So like the word inevitable is like, if we did this, it's inevitable we're going to hit this, right? So looking at that, you need to know your closing ratio, and a lot of companies measure it differently. I think that your closing ratio would be your concluded deals over a trailing period of time of deals that you said, I want you to buy this. Like I'm pitching you. You didn't disqualify the lead. Like you could have done that. But I don't count that. I count the ones that I say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, I think you should buy this $30,000 roof system. And then how many of those, when you did that, said yes, right? So I think that when you look at that, I teach a lot. I help a lot of commercial companies too. So one of the numbers we care about is selling cycle.
Mm-hmm.
When you don't sell on a one-call close, which I think a lot of the industry is probably not stoked on that. I think they're moving more into, they're educated. There's maybe a two-step process. If you can augment it with video or some screening or some things in between, then great. But like, my point being is you may not always get a deal on the first call. You may follow up, you may get that 6 months later. And then do you want to count that in your closing ratio? Yeah, you sure do. So why wouldn't you want to know your selling cycle? So on average, when you say, hey, John, I want you to do this roof system. Will you like my help? And you say, you give me an answer or not. How many days on average when I do that does it take to close? I think that's really helpful when you because when you set goals, John, of like, we have our company goal, you and I, you're a sales rep, I'm the manager, we're doing your goal setting. You want to make $150,000 this year. We reverse engineered how many weeks a year, how many sales, Well, when you propose, your point, if you want to do 100 grand that month, in sales, and you propose divide that by 0.4 or 0.33, whatever your closing ratio is, you have a volume of proposals you need to get in order to make that inevitable. So I think that just simply, like, most CRMs don't have like a proposal volume goal that a sales rep can see, oh, I hit my proposal volume goal this month. They don't even know like if they're supposed to do that. So now but when you have your sales goal, proposal volume goal, and then you have a few other KPIs like, hey, how many referrals did I generate? And how many leads did I generate on my own, like self-generated leads? That's a big one. And then where's my deal size within KPI? Because when as an owner, your margins need to be, and you're like standing strong on that, you can create some cool incentives and, do some spiffs that don't necessarily conflict with compensation that would support selling more value. But like at the end of the day, selling your value is going to require a skill set that can be trained. And if they're discounting, well, we got to remove some head trash and clean up that KPI. But if you're not tracking the average deal size, or you had one moment where somebody had a lower one, and then you just label them as they can't sell value, and then I just think it's like you need to know your numbers. So at the end of the day, though, like, the sales rep's job is taking the big business and narrowing down their part that they need to manage their business. And it's like, I have my personal goals, I have my sales goals, I have my KPIs that make those inevitable, that turn into proposal volume goals. And if I'm within KPI, I can go to sleep at night knowing I'm doing a good job. And whenever I hit my number, it feels really good and I'm doing a good job. They know, I know. And if I'm a high performer, I might find ways to want to exceed that goal because there's something meaningful for me. That's the basics. But like that sounds good. But how many people are doing that? Okay. The 0 to 5 million, very, very few. Okay. And if they are, they're probably quickly going to get past 5 million because the amount of focus that comes from one's ability to see their goals on a regular basis, to be held accountable to them. You start optimizing your working hours as such to generate more revenue and to deal with the deals that are the hottest and to ask for their best referrals and to generate the best leads. So I think that at the end of the day, KPIs sound easy and that I can make it sound very easy to do, but executing on that's important. That's why we're doing fractional sales management, because owners don't really either want to do it or know how to do it, or they're too distractible to execute regularly. It's just consistent, discipline, almost boring, repetition of asking the question like, why aren't we hitting this goal? And then having it again, another question. Okay, why are we short on this goal? Why, it's like, well, I generated some leads, but like I thought the company would generate more leads. And maybe you're like, oh, let's go to the marketing department. Man, our leads are down. Why? Well, they're more expensive. Oh man. Like, so you have to, it's a constant dealing of constraints as an owner. But if you're not managing the sales side, you don't really know where the constraints are from end-to-end sales. So like from lead generated to closing, like if you're not measuring that and you don't have KPIs, it's really difficult to scale because you can't find the errors.
Yep. What does that look like specific? I love the fractional sales manager. I saw 2 posts today. I'm like, I think I'm ready for a sales manager. What do I do? They don't know how to, there's that's a big step in understanding, like I have a sales process, or they think they have a sales process, or they're hitting numbers. What does that look like from what STG provides? Like that sounds very attractive to me than taking the big step to actually hiring a really, pretty high base, probably some sort of compensation based on other people's sales. Like I get all that. What do you guys do, and because I see that as like a potential pitfall where someone's doing really well, they hire their overhead just jumps up, and then there's a, getting somebody on the same page. If you have a process, that would be very challenging. I can see. What do you guys provide as far as your fractional portion?
So we
as far as frequency goes, because I can see the accountability side of things. That's where this pinging to me. What does that look like?
Yeah, so we know that our coaches travel, so there is sometimes meetings get moved. So just saying that up front, like sometimes things adjust. But we have 2 levels. One is all virtual after having spent time with that coach in person. So there is a bit of a relationship that occurs. And we use about 2 hours a week, sometimes 1 to 2 hours a week on that lower tier. And that could be used in a sales meeting, running a sales meeting, group training, one-on-one accountability. The more higher tier one, which, I think it's about probably what you might think you'd pay for a sales manager, but you're not also taking, having the risk of them not being good because you go on board, you hire somebody, they're on their leadership team, and then they don't do it. They don't do their job.
Yeah, burned a lot of money, burned a lot of time, all those things.
Yeah, broke down the trust of your sales team. Blah blah blah. Like, so what we do is we're like a team of people who do this on a regular basis, where coaches have, a handful of these engagements, and so they're running sales meetings. We're performing one-on-one accountability meetings and private group trainings. And then we do come on site, and after a kickoff period, we continue with some training in the class, but we actually then will throw on the shirt and go do ride-alongs and be an active observer. So that's fun. And then as the relationship builds, right, you're building a relationship with those teammates. We look at the numbers on a regular basis. They actually report in weekly percentage against goal, average deal size, total revenue, things like that, closing rate. every week into me. So like I am like almost like this VP of sales of managers of like that's kind of what I do is like I oversee and identify constraints using our tools and our coaches to help our customers, hit their numbers ultimately. And it's fun. So they come on site monthly. We have hands on these, AI note taker, virtual ride along tools, and we do use those with some clients. So as well.
Nice. You going back to what you mentioned before about I've seen this quite a bit, the trend of people pushing towards retail. There's a whole number of reasons why. I love retail. I always love my first office was almost 100% retail. And then our second office was a little bit, it's on the coast, so we had a lot more storms activity. But in general, I loved providing value that was real. And I want to kind of see if you're seeing these trends of financing. And we financed more in our last year in business than all the other years combined. And it was, it's just the cost of doing the providing the service is just so much higher. Are you seeing that with your clients? And how are you working towards training people on selling financing? Or have you already done that?
We do believe we recommend it. So like, for example, and I know there's more to it, and I'm not going to consider myself like a finance expert. It's more like the way I see it is you still use the same sales process. You still sell the value as if they're buying out of their own wallet until they tell you that they maybe discovered that earlier, but you're going to mention the financing, and you basically sell the value, price anchor it, speak to the cost, and they're like, wow. But then you break it down, and you get them financed. I mean, to me, it's like you don't lead with it. You hope that they can pay for it out of their own wallet. You sell it that way every time. And then it's almost like it's not a downsell. It's like, it's an adjustment once, you find out how they respond to it. So, I think it's super important. I mean, you look at other industries who might have a bit more sophisticated marketers, like HVAC, for example. I think it has some more, sophisticated marketers and operators, than roofing has been. And they're all retail, and they've always been all retail. So it's not like they have this adjustment that some markets are having to adjust to. But they finance a ton. They finance a ton. And so you just think about that, and you look at that industry, and you're like, okay, that's the future, is some of the things they're doing. So we gotta. Yeah, I think it's important that everybody has it and they're prepared to do it, but you don't like lead with it. You don't pitch it first. It's just like you go out there and you solve a problem. If it's a repair, then repair it. If it's a replacement, then that's the best option. You should replace it, and you should try to sell it and get them to pay for it. And if they can't afford it right now, but you've built the value, the urgency, the compelling reason, all of it's been extracted. You have leverage to try to push for this and try to get them to do it because they actually want to do it and they need it, and you can help them, then you should finance it.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, I know there's a whole range of belief systems now with that. We did not lead with financing, but we did have pre-qualification questions, and we found in our business that it was either the people that it was really tough to finance with. It just didn't have the cash on hand. They were a large portion of our financing customers, and then also our highest net worth customers. They realized that they could finance instead of spending $60,000 out of their savings or whatever funds they have. They just finance it over time, and having no prepayment penalties and low interest rate made sense to them because they were able to get the job done. And we had huge success with that because we thought, it would be like kind of that middle group, but we really had like the extremes, at least what we saw in our business.
Yeah. They're like, hey, my money's, I could still make more money in my investments. And then, this is no big deal. Let's just finance it. I'd rather do that than take it out of that. Right.
Yeah. That was a really surprising thing for me. It was like, what? Wait, what? They're like, what's this financing thing? And I was like, dang, you have like an 850 credit score and you're going to get like super low interest. And then they just do it. And it was great for us because You know, I think that every market, I do know this, talking about any part of sales in general and understanding your market is so, I know that you can sell anything anywhere, but like understanding your ideal customer avatar and understanding how that market buys, people need to really understand that. And it changes, and it has been changing over the past few years. You need to understand, be available to make sure that you meet those customers where they are, because in my two markets, drastically has changed over the past 10 years, like drastically, as far as who's buying, how they buy, the process of selling. Is all changed quite a bit.
I want to
and
know
that-
about that. What was it like? Like, what did you notice the change?
So, okay, so Athens, Georgia is where I'm really from. Lived there for a long time. College town, University of Georgia. You have a lot of transient people, even people that are like getting their PhDs. They know they're going to leave in 4 to 6 years, so they're not going to invest in their roof or their house at all, because they bought a house. You know, their average age there's 30 to 45, depending on who it is. Really difficult to sell those folks. Then, so in that market, our ideal customer was somebody nearing retirement age, moving to that market because they had kids and grandkids that live in that market. Like, I want to retire here. Low cost of living. It's great. They're from outside of the Southeast or from Atlanta, and they just moved there. And like, this is great. We have all the amenities because it's a college town, but we don't have as much traffic as Atlanta or another municipality, another city. So we had a lot of customers like that. So those were our high net worth individuals. They'd buy their house. They want to take really good care of it. We'd sell them. That was our ideal customer. But we also had a lot of people who were from that area. And there's a 9-county area where they're probably lower middle class to middle class, and they needed financing as well. And so, because they didn't have just a bunch of expendable income, they didn't have $25,000 to throw down on their roof. But they wanted it done well. So that was Athens. Savannah's way different. I had way less time here only before I sold the business. But it was a lot of military people who just wanted it done, and they were all banding together. We would go, if there's a storm, we would do like the whole neighborhood, because they would just say, this company's great, you should use them. And then we also have super high net worth people in the Savannah market, because they've been in Savannah for 7 generations or whatever it is. So it was very similar, but one was driven more by insurance restoration. One was driven way more by retail.
Got it.
So over time, it was like all cash, great. And then progressively over.
And you sold your company?
Yeah, January of this year.
Oh, I didn't know that. Cool. Congrats, man.
Yeah. It was awesome. Another ProLine user, wanted to add more locations. Great.
Nice.
When you have a process in place, that's another thing. If you, this private equity guy, Claudia Villas, he's awesome. We did a podcast, and he said this thing that got me. If you think you're going to exit your business, you're going to die, you're going to hand it over to your kids, there's something about your business that you are going to leave one day. And he gave all the reasons. He says it way more eloquently than I do, but it made me think of like why it's important to have an amazing sales process, understanding your reports, understanding KPIs to grow, and just having really good books, understanding your QuickBooks side of things, and understanding your SOPs. You have to have standard operating procedures for everything in your business. And like, I know you guys see it from the sales side, but like everything else, that it tracks with all those other things. If you think you don't need to do that, you're unfortunately wrong. Like, you need to actually do that, because you will exit your business one day, and you may not want to, and or you may just need to compete with other private equity competitors, and they have all these processes in place. It was really interesting to see that, because that's changing from what I see. Is a lot of people. I want the 0 to 5 and the 5 to 40. I want them to be able to compete with these huge groups that are providing amazing customer experiences, amazing sales processes. Like, they're actually taking the customer through a journey. It's, I love that part. I love being able to compete with that kind of thing.
Nice.
We talked about, this is totally off subject, but we talked about, home births and the crazy stories of having kids at home.
Yeah.
It's something that we connected with, and we love our families, we love our kids. It's another part of like, if you have a sales process, you don't have to be writing estimates at 8:00 at night every night as a sales, because I know I worked for organizations that are like, you got to work 14 hours a day every day, and you couldn't be present with your family. So it's another thing that's really important that you guys provide indirectly, is if you have a process, you can actually be present in your personal life much easier, because you can track all those things. It's something that I really, obviously, personally find valuable.
Yeah.
Do you see that with your clients? Like they have, like, especially the small guys who have their heads, multiple hats. Like, I can imagine you have great stories of those guys being able to delegate and then have better personal lives. Are you seeing that
Yeah,
as you've been working?
for sure. Yeah. No, that's a very rewarding part of what I do is seeing the personal growth, and living the dream, which is, to me, loving your family, serving people, leading, growing personally and professionally, having the ability to give and give of yourself. And so, to me, if you give your business, all of you, for so long, and your kids didn't get the best of you, or your wife or your husband, um, was it worth it? And are you a successful person? And I just think, at the end of the day, sales reps, owners, like you guys, I think ultimately, like, I have, like, there's guys. I mean, we're what? I'm 39. You're probably similar age. We're early 40s.
Yeah, I'll be 41 in a couple weeks.
There's a lot of guys out there who kind of did the Peter Pan thing, and they don't have families, right? And they may be in good shape. They travel. They do a bunch of cool stuff or whatever. And at the end of the day, like, there's been several times where, over the years, where they see my wife and my kids, and they're like, "Man, I really want that." And I'm like, "Yeah, I mean, you gotta go for it. You gotta commit to it." And so, when you think about being a family person, and you have this beautiful family that is yours, that's what this whole world is built off of. And I think that the healthier families get, I mean, not to take your podcast and go too crazy, but
Let's
like,
go.
even Charlie Kirk's mission before he was going to carry out was to, like, restore family in America. And I think about that, and I'm like, all right, what's this all about, right? And I've been, and I'll get a little bit more personal now, is like, I've done every stage in roofing. I've been on every stage. I've been moving and shaking. And dude, like, a lot of that was really hard on the family, right? The desire for you to win and succeed. And I think that if your desire to win is at the expense of family too much, you got to reconsider what you're doing. So, at the end of the day, like, you got to define success in a certain way. I don't define it as just monetary business figures anymore. I think at one point I was, measuring myself against everybody I could to try to see where I stand in this world, and, like, let's try to go, grow and do more. That would be awesome if I did more, and I'm in this category of success. But but if you start to see it, at the cost of your family or your loved ones or your health or your well-being, you need to stop. And so, when I look at people who have a loving family, they live with integrity, they serve well, their heart's still tender toward people. They've gone through some licks, they made it on the other side with holding their head high, doing the right things, and they treat people well. You see the looks on their employees' faces, and how they, like, that's the kind of thing that, you can start to say, hey, that's success. And some people can do that at 5 million. Some people can do that at 25. Some people could do it at 100. But I think I've seen and I've heard a few people who built and they sold, and their soul is missing because they the people that were there that they worked with are not having success with this new ownership anymore, or whatever it may be. So I don't know. I think that when you have a process and you're able to manage your sales process and your pipeline well, and you start to see that you have abundance mindset. You're like, look at these deals, look at tomorrow, look at what I got going on. I have something that I can count on to bring in business. I don't have to be afraid. And because I'm not afraid, I can be present when I step to the door and be with my family, tuck them in, and go to the baseball games, and then get up early, do my workouts, get some coffee in me, and go have a great day, and then do it all over again every single 5-6 days a week, 5 days probably for me, for however many years, and yeah, to be able to go home to your family and enjoy them, that you're a rich man, to have a wife or a husband who loves you, and kids that love you, and they have food in their bellies, roof over their head. Obviously, we want to be able to give and have more, but if it's for, so I answered your question, yes, but then I just kind of hinted on this other entrepreneurial temptation that I think that people could get caught up in, which is this desire for something else beyond like that as success. Just got to check that, look in the mirror and really ask, is that what I want, and why? Because if you pursue, I guess fame would be the word, or become a roofing famous person, or being considered super successful, there could be a price you might pay if you don't do it right, that therefore makes all that affected. And it's like, is that worth it? So all that, to just for those that are listening to think about. I've been wrestling with that for a while, because the nature of a coach, you got to like be in front of people, so you travel and go to all kinds of events. And so anyway, there's a lot of that you think about. But I see roofers too, who are winning in their market, want to be seen by everybody. They want to be known. They want to be important, to others. And if that motivation is grinding your gears more than maybe the thing in front of you, and that's at the expense of what you're trying to do, something's off, right? So yeah, man, sell well, love your families. You're gonna be in a very sweet spot right there if you just stay right there for a while. So
I love that. We would do something when I was for a brief period of couple years, I was a financial advisor, and we'd do something that it's called My Most Amazing Future. And it was super emotional because you write this down. Have you heard about this before? Like it's basically, you write a page or a couple pages, and you write it as you a year from that day. And you have to get super detailed, and you have to do it personally, professionally, financially. You can do spiritually. There's all kinds of things you can do. Nothing you can really rate spirituality in that, side note, but you do these things. And I highly recommend doing this. All you have to do is take time, probably 30 minutes, and write down exactly what you want your life to be like in the future, 12 months from now. And all the things you just said, they don't have to happen. Like you just have to have goals for these things. A lot of mine revolved around my family. A lot of mine revolved around, like, it wasn't like I want to buy a,
and fitness, what you're doing, by the way.
Yeah, there was definitely fitness in there. There's a lot of things like that was in there that you wanted to keep yourself accountable for, but you put that piece of paper somewhere that you can see every day. And over the past decade, I've really recognized that what you just said about perspective on success is just become more and more important. And I think people look at first of all, they look at revenue, and it's just like, you should stop looking at revenue altogether for a lot of people. I know that there's a lot of people, I'm not going to broad state that, but find out what reverse engineer what your life looks like with the money that you've made. You can look at revenue as a business owner, but like, don't think about it like what you said is like, don't try to be famous because you did $25 million. Like, that's not the point. The point is, I do get to coach my kid's soccer game. I do get to do these things. This is what my week looks like. This is what my day looks like. I mean, the inspiration, my wife will tell lots of people that when we had Luke, our first son, this is a little more than 10 years ago, like, I changed. I changed as an entrepreneur, like in a very positive way. Both working harder, being more efficient with my time, being more, forward thinking as far as like I need to make more money, but I also want to make sure that I set up processes and systems so that I can actually see my family. Because there was a lot of years of like I didn't, and so I identify with that a lot. Even with ProLine, this past 2025, I knew would be pretty rough because I'm traveling more than I don't want to be Delta freaking gold elite I don't want any of that because that just says I was on all these flights. Like everybody's like, oh, I got it. I don't want that. I don't want that. I don't want the freaking sky priority. I want to not travel that much. So I love what you're saying. Like I see a lot of people chasing the wrong success, the wrong types of things. And then it's too late. I just implore people, just change as soon as possible because we're recording this on a Tuesday. We have this is the only Tuesday we have today. Like then it's the next day. Then it's, all those things really matter that you can't delay because family takes a long time and a lot of effort. And
it's taking more of my time than ever. Like my son's with me on this 8-day trip because we stopped in Phoenix and went to the NRCA meetings. I had a couple meetings, ate some breakfast, had, dibble dabbled in there. Didn't really serve on any committees. You do, but I'm not. And then, that evening I had to do baseball practice and we grabbed dinner. It's like, and then we hit, because we had a friend that we got to mess around and play with this other group. And then we go to Houston and we practice and, like I'm over here spending all this time focused on my son, looking at him play and taking notes. And I'm like, yeah, maybe certain years ago, you would do the number of revenue and how much you divide your time by the hour. And you look at how much your time is worth, which I think is great to do. And then you're just like, yeah, I'm spending this much time that maybe could be revenue generating on my kids. It's like, is it worth it? Absolutely. I would do it like, and then we had these moments. We had a moment where he faced some adversity. He was getting benched because the coaches don't know him. It was just like a thing, but he's good. And he got benched and, we're facing California and California, they just hit a bomb off like one of our best pitchers. So we get knocked out. It's like 5-0. And, my Hunter hadn't played that whole game because they benched him, which I don't think is the right move, but that's, of course, I'm a dad. And then the coach goes, hey, who wants to pitch? He looks right at Hunter. Hunter goes, yeah, I'll pitch. I was like, by the way, you have no time to warm up. So he came up. And so I'm over here like talking to this dad and we're having a little chat about, adversity and all this. And afterward, this guy, he's a Hawaiian guy. He's like, bro, your freaking son, what he do is impressive, bro. And so he started like telling me, he's like, coming out, no warm-ups, mows these boys down. Because he went 3 up, 3 down, 8 pitches, struck a kid out, a lot of swing and miss, couple weak contact. And, it was like when you're around this team and you had all these people watching and you show up, he could have walked the bases loaded. He could have been, dude, he didn't do that. He showed up and mowed him down. And whenever he started speaking about how impressive he felt it brought a lot of pride in my heart. I was like almost crying in front of him. Dude, we had a moment on the way home where I, because whenever my son's getting benched, dude, like I'm boiling, bro. Like, so is he. And I'm like, what do I do about this? This is hard for me to process. So, but we're like, hey, we had a talk because he was sad. And I'm like, dude, your number's going to be called. You better be ready. Because it's a character building time, right? It's like really, this is the best kids in the whole country playing all against each other in Houston, like some nasty players. So, dude, he goes up there in that car ride home. I was like, I built it up like my Hawaiian friend did. He's like, bro, you freaking, you showed up. And like, I pumped him. I was like, you were throwing gas. They couldn't even handle it. It was like weak contact, like 3 up, 3 down. Like you mowed these freaking kids down. The best team we faced all weekend. And it was like, and I just started to say, I'm so proud of you. And I started crying and he started crying and he was like, he's like, I love you so much. You're the best dad ever. And I'm like, oh, we got all this time, all this money we spent going across the country, da 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 da. And for me and my son to have a moment where he and I connected that deeply, it's like that relationship right there, like it's just, come on, that's it. That's amazing. And so I'm just like, all right, there's less distractions, more of this. I want this with every one of my kids. Every one of my kids, I want to have these moments where dad, and I mean it just changes their life whenever they have a dad in their corner, right? So it's good stuff, man. I'm glad. I've changed a lot too in the last probably 3 years, especially because I started this company almost 8 years ago. So the first 4 years I was like crazy busy going hard. And then I still go hard, but like I'm going hard differently because I have, I've been on a lot of airplanes. So yeah. Yeah.
I love it, man. Well, I mean, that's what it's all about. I'm glad that we talked about sales. I'm glad that we talked about other stuff, but I'm glad that we got to chat today because it's a lot of the things. I think people need to hear that. I think people need to understand that there's a lot of complexity in success, and define it, understand what that looks like for you, and then go after it. Like I appreciate you. I appreciate everybody watching. I'm sure we'll chat again soon, and I hope you enjoy your time in Houston. Until next time, see you guys later.
Thanks, Sean.